Hello, so we've had a few days to play with the Samsung Galaxy S4 Zoom, so we thought we'd share some of our thoughts and opinions in this video as kind of like a video review. It's not going to be conclusive in every element of the device, but we're going to give you a sort of a brief overview. So firstly, taking a look at the physical size of the unit, this is big. It carries the S4 sort of branding to it, but I don't think it's necessarily fair to class this as an S4. It's almost in a class of its own. It's a bit confusing they haven't classed this as a Galaxy camera, but you can see if I bring in an S4 here just how different it is in terms of physical size. The S4 zooms closer to the S4 Mini in terms of size, but I think everyone's going to make comparisons to the actual S4. And when I say it's closer to the S4 Mini, that's when it comes down to the actual screen size, because this is a 4.3 inch screen. We've still got the likes of a 1.9 front facing camera. We've got the home button and the touch sensitive keys either side. So from that perspective, looking at it straight on, yeah, it looks like a Samsung Galaxy product, but you take it like this and the thickness is considerable. Having said that, it's necessary. We've got this nice grip to actually use it as a camera. It makes sense. You can see how I'm sort of holding it there. Much more usable. You've got this dedicated camera button, much like we're used to seeing on compact cameras, and then you've got this lens here with a controllable dial for the zoom. Got 10 times optical zoom, which pops out when the camera is on. Let's just show you that. So if I twist this, I get a little dial on screen, can select the profile that I want. Yep, let's have auto. Lens comes out, and then I can control this to actually control the zoom. See that popping in and out like so. Now I don't know how well you can pick that up. There is actually a plastic cover across the lens. Now there's a little shutter underneath. You'll see that in a second. See how the shutter comes across. So on some compact cameras, you can sort of finger around the sort of shutter there and actually get into the lens and leave fingerprints or dirt. But you can't on here because it's actually covered up, which I think is quite handy because this is also a phone as well. So it's going to go into the pocket. I do think that's a drawback though. I think this could become scratched in time, and that potentially could have an effect on the images, but only time will tell with that. On the zoom itself, actually taking pictures with it is a bit of a fiddle. I was finding when I'm zooming, I'm getting my fingers sort of caught in the shot because it doesn't necessarily always flow naturally, but it's a new sort of product and something to get used to. So I think over time you'll get more used to that. And in terms of actual control of the zoom, if I just go into the camera application here, I'm just turning the dial and you can see I control the zoom. It goes up in little increments, but it then kind of jumps. I don't feel like I'm getting the real control in between of those stages. Now if it's a bit clunky to use your hands, you can use the on-screen controls like so, but it's entirely up to you how you want to go about using that. I do like they've included a tripod mount here. You can pull this out, which is really fiddly, but there is a mount in there that you can connect this to a tripod. You've got a microsd card slot, which is useful for actually expanding the memory options. So the one we've got here is 8 gig, of which about 5 gig is available out of the box. You've got a slightly different setup because that this is a camera and the battery goes under this slot, so you unslide that and you pop it in. It's a 2330 milliamp hour battery. We've also got the SIM card slot here, so like I say, you can use this as a phone, but most people would probably use this just for the data connectivity options, so you can upload your pictures to Facebook, Instagram, online, etc. You've got a micro USB connection on here, fairly standard. You've got a Xenon flash, which is pretty good. You've got your sort of standard phone controls in terms of the volume buttons, power key, like so. And then when you're actually at the home screens, everything is very consistent with a Samsung Galaxy device. So you can see we can drop down here. We've got all the usual settings that we would expect on an Android handset from Samsung. If we go further through to the settings, you can see got Android version 4.2.2 on board. You've got all your accounts and connectivity options. You can control things like your lock screen, blocking mode, you've got driving mode, language input, you've got motions and gestures, which is something we've seen on Samsung Galaxy S4. So you can tap into here. So we can tilt the device to zoom, we can mute and pause the device by turning it over, smart alert. Now you haven't got all of the same motions as you have on the S4, but you've got some of them there. If we go into connections, very standard Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, NFC, S-Beam, you've got screen mirroring. So that's all part and parcel of that. There's your phone dialer, messaging. You can use it in portrait and landscape mode. Now that's one of the issues I've sort of found. I say an issue, it's just a bit of an annoyance really. You're going to use this as a camera, you're going to orientate it generally in landscape mode. So you power on and your lock screen is in portrait mode, so you unlock it. Now your home screen stays in portrait mode, but if I go into the messaging, that orientates in landscape mode. Now there are ways and means to put your home screen into landscape mode, primarily by using different launchers, but I think Samsung should have just built that in as standard. It seems fairly basic that you're sort of geared up to using the camera in landscape mode. Why not rotate the screen? If you don't want it to rotate, you could then switch off, but you're sort of geared to use it this way, and perhaps it's more natural if you're going through some things like your home screens and general usage, but why limit it on your home screens there? It's just an annoyance. You can still get around it, but hey, that's just me. So you've got your internet browsers, be it the standard stock browser, or you've got Google Chrome on here. Now, being Wi-Fi and 3G, you've got great connectivity options, and that comes into play really when you're uploading your images. You've got all the other sort of features and functions you'd expect of an Android device, from a calculator to a clock. You've got your Google Plus, you've got Google Local Maps navigation. You have got some additions here like Photo Suggest. So this will give you ideas based on your GPS location of where to go and take a photo based on what other people have taken photos of in your area. So you could be standing near to a place where loads of people have taken photos, and it would pop up on here and show you, and you can style them, etc. Now it's struggling to get a connection for us internally here, but all of those other controls are there. So YouTube and everything can all be done from this device, and it just shows how you can really instantly upload content that you may have captured from this device. So we have captured a few images on here. So let's just go into the gallery and show you some of these. So I was messing about with it at the weekend just down at the beach here, and the results are pretty good. I still don't think it's as good as a dedicated SLR or anything like that. I think it still feels more like a smartphone camera. So in bright light, it was struggling a little bit, getting a bit of glare. Sometimes there was a bit of lag on actually taking the photos. So you almost press the button, it takes about half a second to actually capture the image, where you don't get that delay on others. But you can pinch and zoom in here. Now the 4.3-inch screen is pretty good for getting an idea of how good the image actually is. So you can really pick up the crashing of the waves here. Now the more you zoom in, the more detail you lose. I think overall though, this is a good option as an alternative to a compact camera. Price may be the limiting factor at the moment, because not all of you will want the phone functionality or want to use this as a phone, but if you want that instant upload opportunity, then you can do this. Let's just show you some other images we captured here, sort of in a dusky sort of setting. Not saying they're perfect, I'm no pro photographer, but you get the idea of how they've come out. You're getting a bit of reflection on the screen. I've been pretty impressed. It's picked up these quite well. I think it could have handled some of the bright lights a little bit better. It looks a bit grainy on the sort of sky colouring here. But all in all, not too bad. Here you go, we've got some fine details of water. That's picked up really well. I think the light was particularly good there. And like any camera, if the settings are just right, then it works out really well in terms of what you can do. And of course, you can orientate this in portrait and landscape mode. So I think that really sums up, the S4 Zoom there as a few of my initial thoughts. You've got lots of scope with this device. I think it's close, but perhaps not brilliant if you're really into photography, but if the key focus for you is being able to take good quality images, uploading them quickly, I can definitely see a place for this, and I would be inclined to go for this over the S4 zoom because of that flexibility. I like capturing images, and if you can have a better camera with you, then great. But I think the price and some of the limitations in terms of the screen size and the overall weight may be prohibitive for some users. But as it goes, it's a definite step in the right direction. I think it's a sign of things to come, and it's only a matter of time before things get bigger and better. There is a bit of confusion with the Galaxy sort of camera range and the knock-on to this with the S4 zoom. This sits sort of somewhere in the middle, but can be a bit confusing understanding what exactly it's supposed to be. But that is my hands-on opinion of the Samsung Galaxy S4 zoom.